saw Mr. Anderson on here earlier, but now I don't see him. Oh, maybe that's.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon. Okay, I think we got everybody here. So right now on there, we're set for this Friday.
Judge, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so right now we're set for Friday the 16th. I know Ms. Hurd, I saw your motion, and go ahead and just kind of repeat your grounds.
Okay. So Mr. Sonier had previous counsel, Mr. Foster. He was in on this case, I think, till around June of 2022. Since then, Mr. Sonier has tried multiple times to find other counsel. They've either been too expensive or no one wanted to take his case. Eventually, he came down the ladder and he met with me November 28th. We had a consultation. That was a Monday. He officially retained me December 2nd, I believe, was that Friday. So I've just recently been retained, not for Mr. Mr. Sonier hasn't just been sitting around waiting to the last minute. So he finally was able to find someone, and I just got the file in this case. I believe it was last week, the beginning of last week. All my weeks are running together. So I was just requesting continuance. One, I barely just got the file and I need to just have time to review it and prepare for it properly. And with a little bit of documents that I have received, I did notice, I don't think any formal discovery has been done in this case, which with how long these parties have been married and the assets that are involved in this case, I do think to have a fair final trial, that discovery needs to be done. Because they're all, just from the little bit I've seen, there's already some holes and gaps that I feel like we need some answers filled in terms of the assets. Also, and again, I've just seen what I've seen in the file. I believe they've gone to mediation, but there hasn't been like a full complete mediation done. I think they recessed and were supposed to come back to get some kind of discovery documents done, which was never done. So mediation hasn't been fully attempted, in my opinion. So, and I think also, I don't think any initial disclosures have even been answered in this case. So just overall, I feel like there's a lot that still needs to be done for Mr. Sonier to have a fair final trial and for me to have time to prepare for it. In addition, not that it matters to anyone, but I was supposed to be out Friday for a doctor's appointment, which isn't the end of the world, but that's another reason for my request for continuance.
Let me just interrupt a second. So, Mr. Anderson, what is the status of mediation? Whoop, and now you're muted.
I'm sorry, Judge.
Yeah, what's the status of the mediation?
We went to mediation for like a temporary hearing type of basis. And while we were there, we had agreed, me and Mr. Foster kind of had talked about, if there's no children involved, we can get a final together, great. If not, it was just mainly to get, some sort of temporary injunctions and stuff, in place. We have done initial disclosures, Judge, in this case. It's a pretty simple case, Judge, and contrary to what Ms. Hurd is saying, Mr. Foster got off the case July 8th. I mean, we're talking about July, August, September, October, November, 5.5 months Mr. Sonier wasted when he knew he needed to get an attorney if he wanted one. Now we are on the eve of trial and they're asking for a continuance. My client wants, her day in court. We'd be happy to, there's not that much in this case. We'd be happy to exchange whatever they have and what we have and go to trial on Friday.
And I know, Mr. Anderson, you said there have been initial disclosures. So Ms. Hurd, did you just not get that from Mr. Foster?
I haven't seen them. So like I said, I'm not saying maybe they have been. I haven't seen them. And then I don't know if Mr. Foster did. I have spoke to Mr. Foster on the phone, and he acted like he also didn't remember initial disclosures being done. So again, I'm not saying anyone didn't or did do anything. That's just my impression from what I've seen and from what I've been given.
Judge, I just talked to my staff who, she just corrected herself. No, there has not been disclosures. We just exchanged a few things for mediation, but no, there wasn't.
Okay. Yeah, and go back to Ms. Hurd for a minute. I know you talked about the doctor's appointment that you have coming up. How long do you expect to be, fully practicing? I don't want to, extend it and then we're in a position where you say, I can't hear it. I can't try it, later on.
No, yeah, and that's kind of what I said in my email to Maria. I'm not planning to stall this case, so I will be on maternity leave starting in April, unless, we never can predict, crazy things happen during pregnancy. But my due date is April 7th, so my hope is to be done by then. I've already went ahead and served Mr. Anderson discovery to kind of get that ball rolling in case we did get the continuance granted. So, if that's properly answered, I think we could, I know you have a busy calendar, so it depends what you're able to hear. But I don't see why we couldn't move forward with this in January or February. Mr. Sonier nor me are trying to cause a whole nother year of delay. It's just, from what I've seen, I do feel like there's more discovery and stuff that just answers that need to be filled in my opinion. There's supposedly investment accounts that he knows about but has never seen. There's a lot of land in question in this case. From what I've seen, there's some confusion on the characterization of that. It's a little more complicated than just a straightforward property case, in my opinion.
Okay, well, one of the benefits of discovery is to try to streamline the case so right now we're set for just an afternoon. I think 3 hours on 3 hours in the morning. Okay, 3 hours in the morning on Friday. Mr. Anderson, do you still think it's a 3-hour case?
Well, at the time when we set it, yes. Given the fact that Mr. Sonier was a pro se litigant, a lot of times those are a lot more concise and not as lengthy as when attorneys get involved, and there's a lot more drawn out questioning and whatnot. So I anticipate it being 3 to 4 hours. We did a title search with a title company for the characterization. So I think it would clear up any question about the characterization that Ms. Hurd has. So I think we could probably get that agreed to before trial, to be honest with you. But if the court's inclined to give a continuance, well, there's nothing we can do.
Well, and one of the problems that I kind of let Ms. Hurd know is we're looked at the calendar just to see what's available. In mid-January, we start up. It's supposed to be about a 2-week trial. So, we have a couple days where we could work something in early January, but again, it's only half days here and there.
And Judge, the problem with that is I've got jury trials stacked in January. Like
Yeah.
every week I'm pretty booked with jury trials on the criminal side.
I mean, just for the heck of it, do you want to see if anybody is available, either the 2nd or the 6th? And it sounds like, with 2 attorneys on each side, this may not be a 3-hour case. And so I'm wondering if it's worth starting up one day and just, again, all we have this Friday is the morning. And so if we went this morning and then in the morning and then have to recess, if we came back on either the 2nd or the 6th, is anybody available then?
I'm available, and I would hope maybe we could get it done in half a day if we just wanted to move it and just get it all done at once versus piecing it together. I always think that's easier for everyone.
Judge, I think the other issue that Ms. Hurd has in this case, and I think what she was saying is, if we continue it, we're going to need to continue it for 30, 45 days so we can get the discovery done and whatnot.
If y'all want to always agree to answer it earlier, y'all have 30 days, but if y'all could answer it earlier to get it done and then have the case done. But y'all, I don't know how long it'll take y'all to answer what I've sent y'all.
And of course, one of my concerns is if Ms. Hurd doesn't have the answers, then I think the trial becomes a lot longer, because then she's doing discovery during cross-examination and it just takes a lot longer. I
understand. I completely understand that, Judge. Like I said, if the court's inclined to do a continuance, then I think it would almost be better to continue it to in February, and we try to mediate this case in between with a half a day. Then because trying to do it halfway on Friday and then come back on the 6th, while we'd like to get it over with, I just think that we're going to end up wasting a lot of the court's time with what you just addressed, Judge.
I agree. I'm fine with us being sent back to mediation and doing it in February, if that's what everyone wants to do.
But it's not what I really want to do.
Mr. Anderson's not saying he wants to do that. Let me just look at, do we have any days, in a February where we have a whole day? No. What else do we have?
We have a 3-day bench trial.
Who's involved in that? Yeah.
Mr. Anderson.
Is asking Mr. Anderson, is Rufino still going?
Which Rufino is that?
Okay.
If it's Patsy and Vince Senior, no, we worked that out.
Which one is it, Maria?
I'll look it up. You have a cause number?
I guess the short answer is no, Judge, because the other one's on hold. So I would guess that would be the only one with Miss Massoum.
Yes. So what day was that?
Starts on February 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah, Judge, we mediated that with Judge Prime.
Okay, so if that's the case, then we had that for 3 days, the 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Then if we could do the 9th, because that's the only day I have that's completely open.
And I know I have criminal stuff in the morning, but we could sure come back so we don't have anything in the afternoon of the 9th.
We had Rufino, but if they're canceling, then maybe
So is the 10th already booked up?
Yeah.
The 10th in the morning, I have something in Waller, but I could do half a day in the afternoon, Judge. And like I said earlier, I hope that if we're putting this out to this far, that the court would make us go to mediation and try and get this case worked out ahead of time. Because this is a pretty much property case. There's no kids involved. And I've already done a lot of the legwork with a title company tracing the title. So
Yeah, it is so I think, wasn't it Miss Reyes or that did the mediation?
Lena Burns.
Lena Burns. So I mean, is she just has recessed the mediation or because
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
have
part
anything
of
in
it-
here saying an impasse.
yeah, I think part of it was that she just kind of, we couldn't get to a final, but we said, hey, look, if we just recess it, let's get some stuff together and then we'll come back to try and finalize it. And then Mr. Foster got off the case and it kind of went from there.
Okay, well, so the two possible times then we'd have for a trial, so we could give you 2 afternoons back to back, February 9th and February 10th. And then have, mediation, like by the end of January 31st or something like that.
I'm fine with that, obviously. So I'm not the one you gotta ask.
Well, is Mr. Anderson, you think you could find a date then to mediate by January 31st? I don't know if it's worth, I can call her, right now where everybody's here, maybe we could see what days are available. I have the referral here in the file.
Judge, I think if Ms. Hurd and I can keep in contact with one another, we can, between Ms. Burns and Judge Prine, now that he's not elected as a judge, he's pretty open. I think we can get it mediated as long as you'll order that it's one of those 2 mediators.
Yeah, Ms. Burns, we actually just got an email from her on a different case, and she still has quite a few days open in January. So,
Well, and so tell me then, what's the schedule for discovery? When are things due to be produced?
so I sent it last Friday, so that would make it due.
I mean, Judge, we'll have to send out requests now that there's counsel involved. So we'll get that done today, get it out. So whatever 30 days from today is, January 12th, 13th.
Yeah, so y'all just probably do around the 9th or something, somewhere around there.
So you say it. So Ms. Hurd, the things that you sent out would be due January 9th.
I think so. Can't calculate off the top of my head, but I sent it Friday, so 30 days from the 9th would be kind of around.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, roughly around the 9th. I mean, I would think if 9th or, the 6th is the only day we could get in, that submitting a couple days early probably wouldn't be a problem.
I'll try and get my stuff. I've got majority of all our stuff together because we were prepared to go to trial. It's just, we weren't going to do discovery requests given the nature of the case. So we'll just put some discovery requests together. Pretty much our stuff is all ready to go. So if we get a mediation date sooner, then of course we'll just submit everything sooner. So.
And I'm fine with that.
Okay. Well, then I'll send out an email and let's put the trial date. Then it's February 9th, February 10th
Okay.
in the afternoon.
This is over my objection, correct, Judge?
Yes.
Just because I'm going to have to answer to my client. And
Yeah. And try to contact, it seems like it'd make more sense. Ms. Burns, she'd kind of be introduced to the case already, but either Ms. Burns or Judge Prine mediate by January 31st and trial February 9th and 10th.
Sound good to me?
And that's at 1:30, correct, Judge?
And both days, February 9th and February 10th, are just in the afternoon. So it'd be 1:30 Thursday, 1:30 Friday.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and so, so I'll just say that this will be a hard and fast date, so, it's cleared on people's schedules, so just look at not continuing it any further, and that would be it.
Yes, Your Honor. And do you want me to prepare a different order, or I had prepared one. I don't know if that works.
I can just interlineate on this one.
Okay.
And Allison, if we can, once you get this title stuff, I had a title company go through and research the title for
Okay.
ownership. So, I mean, if you want to look at that and just agree to that, then that'll.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think there's some testimony that we're probably gonna have to give on it if we get to that point, but yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay.
And what are basically, Ms. Hurd, what's the information that you're asking for from Mr. Anderson? So I don't know if he'll know things off the top of his head, but there may be some.
In terms of, sorry, Your Honor.
With your discovery, you said there's things that you want that you're going to get back early January. What is that?
Well, there are some questions and interrogatories that are in regards to the property, the way that the deeds were handled or how things were transferred. And my clients, the way he was remembering it was supposed to happen, what they agreed to didn't happen. There were some issues with that. The man that did it is now passed, which is another issue. So I wanted to get her answers on that under oath on interrogatories, or if she has any documents to show that my client, his remembering of it was wrong, then that's what I want to see. I think there's also some investment account stocks and stuff that my client remembers. There was a business that was sold during the marriage. I want to know what was done with the money of all the selling of that, things of that nature, kind of what we need.
And just, and basically about the land, if there's a deed, I think everybody's going to assume this, if there's a deed, and I don't know what the issue is, but if there's a deed that says land was transferred somewhere, what type of information would you think you could get that would, uphold, that would contradict that? I mean, usually the deed is kind of the final say.
Yes, and I've informed my client of that. There was supposed to have been an agreement that this all happened around when they were married. My client it's kind of a prenup type situation that was supposed to have happened that didn't happen, in terms of it was supposed to stay separate property. But now the way things are looking, that's not what happened. And I think there was maybe some improper things done with how that was handled. But I do understand that the last deed controls usually, which is what I've informed my client of that.
And Judge, I was supposed to inherit the King Ranch and it didn't happen. Something got messed up in the agreement and now it belongs to the other heirs, which is why I had a title company go through and do a title search and give me addendums. We just got that today. I'll be more than happy to give it to Ms. Hurd. And he's a local, huh?
I said, which is great. I just haven't had a time to do any of that.
Yeah,
so.
no, and this guy he has a local title company. He's been doing it a long time. They did a whole synopsis with all the deeds and there's all the documentation, because granted, whenever I looked at it, it was kind of confusing, which is why I wanted somebody that's an expert in the field to do it, because we believe that, it's community property.
It did.
Or separate property given.
Of course, if you're not comfortable answering this question, I'll understand. Did the characterization of the land come up at all in mediation? Or is this sort of a new stone that's being overturned?
Judge, I can't recall. That's been many months ago when that was before the summer when we did that mediation. I'm
I
sure
realize
it did.
Well, things in mediation, are confidential
No,
anyway.
I totally understand, but I would venture to say it did, because the two big assets here are, which you'll see in trial anyways, is the 54.5 acres of land that we believe is, 50% owned by my client, 50% owned by Ms. Heard's client. And then my client had some IRAs from a previous marriage that have over the years gotten rolled over into new IRAs and whatnot. And we'll have to have the wealth management company that's come in and talk about it, that's handling the case, because it's been so long ago that they go from one IRA to another, and you'll just have to hear testimony about it.
Well,
I think-
is that something that, does anybody need to sign a release or something that person could talk to Ms. Heard so that, she'd get a heads up as to what he's going to say in trial about those IRAs?
Because that's one of the things I've requested in discovery, is to see all of her statements and everything in terms of that, because that was, I think, one of the other big unanswered questions. And I do think characterization probably came up at some point, because Mr. Foster, he was fully convinced it was separate property also. So
What was separate property?
the land, I don't know if you ever received his inventory or not. I'm confused on whether or not that was done. But I think it was classified as separate property on his inventory.
Yeah, so we exchanged inventories, Judge, before mediation. That's what we had done. And I think Mr. Foster just went based on his client's testimony. And it very well may be that he classified it as separate property because it started out as separate property, but then was gifted. 50% was given to my client and 50% retained by Mr. Saunier. Maybe what he was.
It's not exactly what happened, but I mean, we'll get into it. So.
Well, what about, like I said, Ms. Heard, I know you want to see statements and all that. Is it going to help at all if you could talk to the broker or whoever the person is that can explain the characterization of the stocks?
I mean, it's always, of course, it's easier to talk to someone that, I mean, their job is to handle those accounts and kind of what happened. So that's something that they're willing to give me authorization to do. I would be more than happy to do that.
So is that Miss Wilson's account?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. So is that something that?
That's something I'm going to have to talk to her about, Judge.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to speed things up a little bit. I mean,
no, absolutely. Anything that I can do to speed it up, Judge, I definitely will.
Yeah, I mean,
like
one option is you produce all these statements and then people go through the statements one at a time, or the other thing is you talk to the person and he says either it was rolled over and what the status of it is, or what the characterization of it is. Okay. All right. Well, okay. So I'll, anyway, grant the continuance, be set for trial February 9th and 10th, mediation before January 31st, and just encourage the parties to cooperate in discovery so that it can be streamlined as much as possible.
Yes, Your Honor.
hopefully we don't need the 8th and 9th.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye.